Welcome to Maritime Pakistan, your gateway to the fascinating world of oceans and the opportunities they present to every one of us. Today's video explores naval warfare through the book Fleet Tactics and Coastal Combat, and today we will start with an introduction to the book.
So let's dive right into this foundational text on modern naval warfare. We're kicking things off with a really powerful quote from Commander Bradley Fisk, written way back in 1905. It just sets the stage perfectly, reminding us that no matter how advanced our ships get, no matter how clever our strategies are, it's the tactics, the actual conduct of a battle, that are the bedrock of naval power. That was true over a century ago, and believe me, it's even more critical today.
So, here's our game plan for today as we unpack the key ideas from the book's introduction. We're going to look at the new era of warfare we're in, we'll nail down what fleet tactics really means, figure out the fundamental purpose of a navy, learn some of the key language, and then see who this book is really for.
First up, let's talk about the dramatic, almost seismic shift in the strategic landscape that makes this book so important right now. You see, the end of the Cold War wasn't just a political event. It completely flipped the script on how navies operate, forcing them to adapt to a whole new world.
Think about it. During the Cold War, the focus was all on these massive, blue-water navies preparing for a huge potential showdown with the Soviet Union out in the middle of the open ocean. But after the Soviet Union collapsed, naval operations kind of snapped back to their historical roots, combat in coastal regions, what we call littoral waters. This means joint littoral warfare, where you're coordinating with air and land forces in those cramped, narrow seas right up against the shore. You know, we often think that military revolutions are all about new weapons, some new gadget. But the author argues that the biggest change, the most startling revolution, wasn't about technology at all. It was about the political map of the world being completely redrawn. The end of the Cold War created a new reality, and that new reality demanded totally new tactics. And this shift to fighting near the coast happened at the exact same time a new dominant weapon was taking over the scene. Just look at this number. Over 450 ships have been hit by anti-ship cruise missiles since 1967. This statistic tells you everything you need to know. We are firmly in the missile age, where the threat is fast, it's precise, and it can come from anywhere: sea, air, or land.
So what exactly are fleet tactics in this new era? It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but it's often misunderstood. Let's really break down the core definition from the book.
The word itself, tactics, comes from the Greek for arrangement. But the key takeaway here isn't the origin, it's the definition in the book, the handling of forces in battle. That means tactics aren't just about theory or planning. They're about the real actions of real people in the heat of combat. It's about what you do, not just what you study.
I love how this slide just cuts right to the chase. A strategist might decide that controlling a key shipping lane is vital to winning a war. That's the plan. The tactician? That's the ship's captain who has to figure out how to defeat the enemy ships that are right there in that lane. One plans the war, the other actually fights the battle.
And today, fleet tactics are incredibly complex. I mean, it's not just ships sailing in pretty formations anymore. It's this intricate dance between ships, aircraft, and even sensors and weapons that are based on land. It's really the Navy's version of combined arms tactics, where all the different parts of the military have to work together as one.
To really get a grip on naval tactics, we need to step back for a second and ask a super fundamental question. What is a Navy even for? What's its ultimate purpose? Well, it can be broken down into 4 core functions. Here's a great way to think about it. Armies are in the nodes business. Their goal is to capture and hold territory, real estate. Navies, on the other hand, are in the links business. They control the connections between the nodes, the sea lanes that allow goods, services, and military forces to move around the globe.
So what's really cool is that a Navy's whole purpose can be boiled down to these 4 simple, symmetrical functions. You have 2 jobs at sea, protecting your own shipping and attacking the enemies, and you have 2 jobs from the sea, making sure you can project power onto the land and stopping the enemy from doing the same. Pretty much everything a Navy does fits into one of those 4 boxes.
Okay, now that we understand a Navy's purpose, let's start learning the lingo. If you want to think like a tactician, you gotta learn to speak their language.
First up is scouting. This is everything related to gathering information. It's the eyes and the ears of the fleet, using reconnaissance and surveillance to figure out what the enemy is doing, where they are, and what they might do next. In naval warfare, knowing isn't just half the battle, sometimes it's the whole battle.
And of course, if scouting is all about finding the enemy, then the logical next step is anti-scouting.
This is the other side of the coin. It's all the stuff you do to keep the enemy from finding you. We're talking stealth, deception, creating confusion, anything to deny your opponent the information they need so badly.
And finally, we have Command and Control, or C2. You can think of this as the brain of the entire operation. It's the process of taking all that information from scouting, getting it to a commander to make a decision, and then getting those orders out to your forces. In that fast-paced missile age we talked about, where threats can pop up in an instant, good C2 is what separates success from disaster. It's what turns information into action.
So who is this book actually for? You might think it's just for high-level naval officers, but the author identifies 4 key groups of readers who can all get something valuable out of it.
Of course, it's essential for naval officers, but it's also written for an international audience because the principles of tactics apply to navies of all sizes. It's for the interested layman, the citizen who wants to understand defense issues. And finally, and I love this, it's for the youngster, the future admiral playing tactical games on their computer. The author shares this wonderful personal story, and it connects this complex subject right back to something we can all understand: childhood imagination. It's a great reminder that, at its heart, tactics are about using your environment and your resources to outsmart an opponent, a game that many of us have played in one way or another.
And this is the big question the book ultimately leaves us with. The author was already thinking ahead to an age of robotics with unmanned vehicles. Now that we are living in that age of AI and drones, we have to ask ourselves, which principles of combat are truly timeless, and which lessons from history will still guide us in the battles of the future? We hope that you liked today's video. Post your questions in the comments section for future videos.